The council chamber was vast enough to swallow worlds, a cathedral of light and arrogance. Hundreds of alien delegates floated, slithered, or shimmered in their seats, murmuring through translator fields as the decision was finalized. In the center stood one human, Ambassador Elias Trent, flanked by nothing but silence. The verdict had already been decided long before the vote began. The banners of the Galactic Council rippled in artificial air as the Supreme Speaker announced it with ceremonial calm. By unanimous decree, the Sol system is hereby exiled from the galactic community. Effective immediately. There was no outcry. No desperate plea from the human. The words hung in the chamber like a guillotine's blade, cutting the last thread between Earth and the stars. Murmurs followed, tones of satisfaction, relief, even amusement. For decades, humanity had been called unpredictable, dangerous, uncivilized. The Council convinced itself that removing the Terran problem would bring peace. They mistook fear for justice and arrogance for wisdom. Elias Trent looked up at the speaker, expression carved from stone. His heart beat steady beneath the black diplomatic uniform. No tremor, no anger, just a slow inhale that carried centuries of restraint. Understood, he said. One word. Calm. Final. Then he turned his back to the entire assembly and walked out. The echo of his boots against the polished floor was louder than any protest could have been. The council chamber remained silent long after he was gone. Across the galaxy, news feeds erupted in celebration. The council removes Earth. Peace returns to the stars. Holos plastered the image of humanity's solitary diplomat walking into the shadows. The narrative was simple. The dangerous species had been cast out, the galaxy was safe again. No one questioned the relief they felt. No one asked why the chamber had felt so cold when the human left. On Earth, there were no riots, no cries of despair. The broadcast reached the Sol system with clinical clarity. Every screen displayed the speaker's verdict, and then Trent's quiet response. People watched in silence. Then the feeds went dark, not from censorship, but decision. Within hours, transmissions from Sol ceased entirely. Embassies across alien worlds shuddered. Human ships recalled their crews. It wasn't retreat. It was disengagement, absolute and deliberate. Factories that once built civilian transports switched to heavy industrial production. Lunar shipyards, once restricted by council treaties, came alive with fire and sound. Mars lifted its orbiting dry docks from dormancy. The oceans of Earth carried silent convoys of steel, while orbital arrays burned brighter than ever before. The Council mistook it for desperation. They called it resource hoarding. They thought humans were clinging to what little power remained. But inside the Sol system, something else was happening: unity. The banishment erased borders, ended debates, silenced governments that had once bickered over trade routes and influence. Humanity, for the first time in centuries, had no one left to appease. The Directorate of Human Continuity emerged overnight, not born from conquest, but necessity. Scientists and soldiers worked side by side. Economists and engineers drafted the blueprint of a civilization free from alien law. The phrase, "We don't wait to be asked twice," became a quiet motto whispered through command centers and workshops. Elias Trent returned to Earth in anonymity. No parades greeted him. He didn't speak on broadcasts or write memoirs. He simply vanished into the Directorate's growing web of projects. The man who once stood before the galaxy now stood in the shadows of something greater. Beyond Sol's borders, alien analysts predicted collapse within decades. They cited limited resources, psychological instability, and species-level immaturity. They told their governments not to worry. Humanity would fade quietly into obscurity. They never understood that obscurity was exactly what humanity wanted. The final message from Earth to the Galactic Network was brief. "We acknowledge the decision of the Council. Sol will comply." Then every relay, every comm buoy, every transceiver linked to human space went offline. Decades of trade, alliances, and shared knowledge were erased in a moment of chosen silence. For the rest of the galaxy, it was a relief. For humanity, it was liberation. In the darkness beyond the Council's reach, the Sol system began to hum with life. Shipyards gleamed like artificial suns. New engines whispered to the void. Humanity didn't curse the exile, they embraced it. The Council had given them what they'd always wanted: permission to disappear, to work without interference, to build without witnesses. The galaxy had voted to banish Earth. Humanity didn't argue. They simply accepted, and began preparing for the day when the galaxy would remember why that was a mistake. Years passed in silence, and the galaxy grew comfortable with the absence. The Council labeled the Sol system a restricted zone, citing radiation hazards and unstable space. Few dared approach it. Those who did never returned. Beyond that line of empty coordinates, humanity became a ghost story. Children of alien worlds were told tales of the Terrans, brutal, brilliant, and gone. Yet inside that forbidden void, something extraordinary unfolded. When the diplomatic doors closed, the Directorate of Human Continuity took full command. Every nation on Earth, every colony on Luna and Mars, every surviving station in the belt fell under one directive: adapt, unify, endure. Without alien oversight or treaties limiting research, human innovation accelerated at a pace unseen in recorded history. The bureaucracy of compromise vanished. The dreamers were finally unchained. Orbital factories expanded into planetary rings. Quantum foundries on Mercury's night side fed an unending stream of alloys into the void. Mars became an engine world, its surface carved into grids of shipyards, fusion towers, and domed cities humming with power. Earth itself transformed into the heart of a vast industrial network, a living world cloaked beneath orbital shields, its atmosphere glowing faintly from the energy coursing through the planetary grid. Artificial intelligence, once stifled by alien ethical laws, was brought into full partnership. The Directorate treated them not as tools but as citizens of a new civilization. Human minds and machine intellects fused in a cooperative architecture of progress. Together they erased inefficiency, optimized production, and unlocked technologies that had once been theories. They built engines that bent inertia, reactors that ignored entropy, and weapons designed only as deterrents, each one a promise of sovereignty. Culturally, humanity hardened. Art glorified endurance, not conquest. Schools taught history as warning, not nostalgia. Children studied strategy, engineering, and philosophy in equal measure. Never again depended became both creed and commandment. Society became lean, pragmatic, and focused. There was no luxury, no decadence, but neither was there despair. Humanity's exile had distilled it into purpose. The Directorate's communications policy was absolute: no transmissions beyond the heliosphere. No diplomatic signals, no trade offers, not even distress calls. The galaxy listened for a century and heard only static. The Council concluded humanity had collapsed into isolation, perhaps even extinction. Their archives recorded the Sol system as quarantined by mutual choice. They closed the files and moved on to more convenient matters. But deep within Sol, construction continued. Swarms of automated forges consumed asteroids to birth ships the size of mountains. Dyson frameworks grew in the shadow of Jupiter, absorbing light and transforming it into pure energy. The void between Mars and Saturn filled with motion, freighters, drones, and black-armored vessels that never transmitted names. Humanity's silence became its weapon. The galaxy forgot how to measure its progress, forgot what limits had once defined Terran science. Without comparison, fear faded. Without fear, vigilance waned. And that was precisely how humanity wanted it. The Directorate operated from Luna's dark side, its command chambers buried beneath kilometers of alloy and electromagnetic shielding. Every decision made there followed a single doctrine: humanity would never again ask permission to exist. Exploration fleets departed quietly beyond Pluto, probing the interstellar dark for new frontiers. They carried no flags, no broadcasts, only encrypted signals that returned to Sol once every few decades, unreadable to outsiders. Alien cartographers marked Sol as a dead zone. Yet traders who strayed too near told of strange distortions: gravity bending where no planet should be, light curving in ways their instruments couldn't explain. Some claimed to glimpse artificial suns or moving shadows larger than moons. None could prove it. Most who tried vanished into untraceable coordinates. Inside the Directorate's network, those incidents were recorded calmly. Perimeter integrity maintained. Nothing more. The secrecy was deliberate. Humanity wasn't hiding out of fear. It was cocooning, preparing, perfecting itself in the silence the galaxy had so graciously given. A century after exile, humanity had no colonies left under alien laws, no dependence on foreign trade, and no need for the Council's approval. It had become something the galaxy could neither understand nor measure, a civilization unbound by consensus, guided by memory, tempered by isolation. The Council had thought the banishment would break humanity's spirit. Instead, it erased their limits. In the void between stars, the descendants of Earth were no longer exiles. They were architects of their own destiny, unseen and unstoppable, forging the foundations of something far beyond what the galaxy had ever dared to imagine. The first clue came from the edge of map space, where a mining consortium sent automated harvesters to a nameless system on the galactic rim. The drones reported a gravitational anomaly unlike anything on record. Their last transmission showed a ring, an artificial structure stretching half a light-year in diameter, humming with energy no civilization was known to produce. Then the feed cut off. Within days, Council intelligence dispatched survey ships. They arrived to find the ring dormant, its surface coated in a dark alloy that reflected no light. Engraved along its inner arc was a symbol, 2 concentric circles, the mark of sole command. Panic spread through the Council before the data was even verified. Humanity's insignia had not been seen in over a century. Theories filled the airwaves. Some claimed it was a remnant of the old Terran fleets left drifting. Others argued it was impossible. No pre-exile technology could have built such a monument. Still, the structure existed, and every instrument that scanned it failed to penetrate its shell. Energy readings defied comprehension. When one cruiser attempted to approach, it vanished without a trace. The Council convened emergency hearings. Delegates who had once mocked humanity now spoke in hushed, nervous tones. The exile had been intended to remove a threat, not birth a legend. Yet the evidence was undeniable. The humans had not perished in their isolation, they had transcended it. Over the following months, reports multiplied. Unidentified vessels sighted near frontier sectors. Star lanes disrupted by sudden spatial distortions. Entire outposts losing contact for seconds, then finding their systems perfectly rearranged, as if examined and left untouched. At first, the Council suspected pirates or unknown species. But analysis revealed identical signatures to the energy patterns from the rim ring. The same frequency. The same precision. The same silence afterward. A phrase began circulating through intelligence channels: human remnants. It was meant to be a technical term, but it spread like superstition. Traders whispered it at ports. Soldiers muttered it before patrols. To them, it meant one thing: Terrans had returned, and they were watching. When the Council demanded proof, one of its border fleets captured a drifting probe. It bore no weapons, no crew, just an array of sensors and a small core of compressed data. When decrypted, the message contained a single line: perimeter violation detected. Withdraw immediately. There was no threat, no signature, only that phrase in the old Terran language. The clarity of the tone chilled every listener. Public confidence began to erode. News outlets reminded the citizens that humanity had once been a minor power, easily outnumbered. Yet every simulation run by military analysts ended the same way. The unknown ships outmaneuvered and destroyed entire fleets without casualties. The simulations were theoretical, but their results were consistent. The alien empires realized the cost of ignorance. They had spent a century believing humanity was gone. In that time, the Terrans had built something beyond comprehension. In private, admirals debated preemptive strikes, but no one dared act first. The few fleets that attempted reconnaissance disappeared entirely. The void swallowed them without wreckage or distress calls. In council briefings, the fear was palpable. Even mentioning humanity felt dangerous, as if speaking their name could draw attention. Some suggested outreach, others begged to renew diplomatic ties. But there was no address, no frequency, no ambassador to contact. Sol remained silent, but its reach had clearly grown. Within months, the ring structure on the rim activated again. This time, it emitted a burst of light visible across multiple sectors. All communication in that region ceased for 30 seconds. When systems recovered, thousands of comm relays received a synchronized transmission, boundary confirmed. No source could be traced. For the first time in galactic memory, the Council had no plan. Their attempts at control, their moral superiority, their confidence, all evaporated. Humanity, once expelled as an inconvenience, had become a mystery vast enough to frighten an entire galaxy. They had vanished into the dark, and now the dark itself answered to them. They appeared without warning, no FTL signatures, no detectable approach. One moment, the outer sectors of Council space were empty. The next, they were filled with shapes that eclipsed starlight. Human ships. They didn't broadcast identification, didn't answer hails, didn't demand anything. They moved with terrifying precision, cutting through routes and vanishing again. Every sensor array tracking them failed, every probe sent to follow returned corrupted. Fleets scrambled, admirals panicked, governments issued conflicting orders. None mattered. Humanity had returned, and they didn't need permission to exist. The first contact in centuries was not war, it was presence. Black vessels of impossible scale drifted through space silently, their hulls absorbing light, their movements too perfect to be organic. They didn't engage, only observed. Whenever alien warships tried to shadow them, navigation systems failed. Entire sectors reported short bursts of gravitational distortion that folded light for seconds at a time. When sensors cleared, the human ships were gone. What they left behind was always the same, one encoded message, boundary confirmed. The phrase spread faster than any fleet. It wasn't a warning. It was a statement of control. Every system it touched became silent afterward, as if acknowledging a superior will. The Council assembled in emergency session, terrified to admit what everyone already knew: humanity had returned, and they were operating on a scale no civilization could match. Even the largest empires found their borders gently but firmly adjusted, their navigation networks rerouted as if an unseen hand had redrawn the stars. Within weeks, human fleets appeared openly. They traversed populated regions without aggression, their drives bending spacetime like ripples in glass. Planets saw their skies darken under the shadow of passing titans. Yet no attack came. No weapons fired. No soldiers landed. The silence was more unnerving than any invasion. The message was clear: they weren't conquering territory. They were mapping what already belonged to them. Council leaders demanded a summit. It was meant to reassert authority, to show the galaxy remained united. Yet no invitation had been sent to humanity. And still, on the day of assembly, they arrived. The lights dimmed across the chamber as a figure appeared in the center, a man, projected in perfect clarity, draped in the black insignia of Sol Directorate. The same calm composure that Elias Trent once carried, now amplified by time and purpose. He did not bow. He did not address anyone by title. "You banished us," he said, his voice even, unhurried. "We complied? You feared what we might become. You were correct." The words echoed through the chamber, reverberating like a verdict. Dozens of delegates tried to respond, but he continued without pause. "We learned in silence. We built without interruption. We do not seek dominion. Only distance." The Speaker of the Council stammered something about peace and cooperation. The human's expression didn't change. "Cooperation requires equality," he replied. "You forfeited that when you voted us out." There was no anger, no threat, just truth spoken like a law of nature. "We have no desire to harm you. But understand this: the galaxy will expand on our terms now. You will find no walls strong enough to contain us again." Before anyone could answer, the projection faded. In its place, a single holographic sigil, two circles, radiant and white, hung suspended above the chamber, pulsing once before dissolving. Within hours, every navigation grid across the galaxy recalibrated itself. Trade routes now curved around territories labeled as human-controlled, not through diplomacy or conquest, but through automated compliance. Entire sectors vanished from public star maps overnight. The Council attempted to override the changes, but their systems refused to obey. Humanity had rewritten the galaxy's boundaries in code no alien could decipher. There were no ultimatums, no fleets demanding surrender. Just the quiet understanding that resistance was meaningless. Humanity had become something beyond empire, an equilibrium the galaxy would have to orbit around. The same species once cast out now defined the shape of civilization itself. And they didn't ask for recognition. They simply acted, and the universe followed. Centuries passed, and the memory of exile turned into legend. The galaxy that once mocked humanity now revolved around the systems they quietly reshaped. Trade networks rerouted themselves to skirt human boundaries. New civilizations emerged using technologies reverse-engineered from the fragments of Terran design, and no one dared claim ownership of anything humans had touched. The Council still existed, a relic of its former glory, filled with politicians pretending the order of the past remained intact. Yet even they bowed, in their own way, to the invisible empire in the dark. The Directorate no longer sent fleets or warnings. They didn't need to. Their presence was felt through stability itself. Wars ended before they began, piracy disappeared in sectors under their shadow, and famine ceased wherever human systems extended influence. Planets that once feared humanity now depended on the quiet precision of their unseen hand. The Council called it deterrence through mystery. The people who lived under it called it peace. An alien historian, young and fearless, sought the truth. She located the last surviving human diplomat, kept alive through augmentation, his eyes reflecting centuries of memory. He agreed to speak, not as a representative, but as a witness. When she asked why humanity never struck back, never conquered, his answer was simple. Because we outgrew the need to prove we could. His voice carried no pride, only inevitability. They exiled us from their council. We built one that didn't require their approval. He described the transformation of soul, not as a military fortress but as a cradle of creation. Human megastructures surrounded the sun, converting its power into knowledge. Fleets no longer existed for war but for exploration, spreading outward into uncharted sectors beyond the galactic rim. To most species, the edge of the galaxy was the end of possibility. To humanity, it was only the beginning. The historian recorded every word. When she returned to her world, her superiors ordered the testimony sealed. Fear still guided them. Even now, they couldn't confront what they had done. But the recording spread in secret, whispered across the stars. It told of a species that took banishment as liberation, that turned isolation into advancement, that learned silence could be the loudest statement in existence. Galactic philosophers began referring to it as the Terran paradox. How could a people once accused of savagery become the architects of universal balance? The answer lingered in every quiet system that thrived under their unseen watch. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy, they had made it dependent. Every hyperlane calculation, every energy relay, every shield matrix now contained fragments of human design. The galaxy's survival rested on the foundation of the very species it once expelled. As centuries blended into epochs, humans faded from physical sight. Few had ever seen one, yet their legacy shaped the future of all. Children of alien worlds grew up learning human mathematics, reciting Terran principles of resilience and logic. The phrase, "Don't wait to be asked twice," became a proverb of initiative and strength, detached from its origin but alive in spirit. In the final record of the Council, written by its last archivist, one entry stood alone. The galaxy voted to banish Earth. The humans never objected. They simply left. And when we looked for them, they had already gone beyond what we could comprehend. Above the old Council world, a faint transmission still echoes through the network, unchanging, untraceable, older than any empire that remains. It carries a single emblem, glowing in monochrome, two rings entwined, the mark of sole directorate. Beneath it, a line of text repeats endlessly in the silence between stars. You cast us into the void. We built a home there. And somewhere beyond known space, humanity continues forward, silent, eternal, unchallenged. The species once banished now defines what civilization means, not through conquest or rule, but through unshakable presence. They needed no vengeance, no recognition, only distance. And from that distance, they became infinite.